Welcome to On the Ball. Today we have got something a little bit different. We are doing a Talking Points podcast. So where this show is one where we talk about noteworthy things that happen in English football. Sometimes we deviate a little bit, and this is one of those shows. So today I've got two special guests who are with me today. We've got Nelson, who is in charge of the Deep Lying Midfielders blog. You can check that out in the description. I'll leave a link to the blog where they've got some incredible content, incredible pieces that they've written. And we've also got Simo, a resident fan of football. Big fan of football. He's played as a goalkeeper at a very high level in South Africa. And also, both of them are Arsenal fans. I myself am a Manchester United fan. And welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Gabs. Good to be on the show, mate.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys could take the time to join me today. We've got quite a few things that I would like to discuss. Some things that came to me while watching football, while things were happening during lockdown, etc. Primarily, this entire conversation will focus on players and what makes them good and what makes them the best, and etc. etc. And so we're going to start off very, very simple. Definition style. What makes a player good? We're going to start off with Nelson. What would you say is your definition of a good player?
I guess when you're thinking of good or the best, like the simple things of like the basics of your technique, your skill level, your professionalism, all that you got to take into account. And end of the day, stats speak the loudest, and you're always going to see the players with the most goals or assists or the best stats in their team would always get recognized. But for me, like two major points that I regard quite highly in a professional player is like their adaptability and their commitment to whatever team or environment that they play in. Like technique is something that you either have been brought up with or have been instilled with through the youth levels, skill levels. Some are more skilled than others, but you can also work on skill. You can also work on being better. For me, the commitment of always trying to be your best and always trying to be better than what you were yesterday, and the adaptability to be the team player in your squad, to not be the person that's always complaining or the person that's always looking for favors. Like, I think those 2 points are quite high in what I see in a good footballer. Because if you're just going by technique and skill, professionalism, all the main points, like there's so many of them in the world, but like you also might not be the one that has all the best technique or the greatest skill level, but you can still be a professional footballer if you are professional and you're committed to making yourself better and your team better.
Which makes sense. And Simo, what about you?
Okay, so I would deviate a bit. While statistics do come in very handy, I think for me, what makes a great player. I think that's what we're talking about. Like what really makes a great player. Yes, the technique obviously counts the most. I think one of the most critical elements, in my opinion, is the mental side of things. I think,
Sure.
which is what usually distinguishes the great from the good, if I can say it like that. Because I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's Prelo who said football is played with the head, and the feet are just the tools. So I think that for me distinguishes what really makes a great player. So whenever I watch football, I look for some things within a player that I'm like, okay, cool. How does he make decisions on the match? How aware are they? So for instance, if I'm looking at a defender, I'm thinking how much of the danger is he aware of? If he's a defender, does he always get caught out, not aware of what was going on around him? Same thing for a goalkeeper. Did he really not see that there was someone coming in for a forward? When he's making, like, for instance, a run, does he realize what the run means to him, and things like that? So I think the mental aspect of the game is what really separates, especially us, people that watch football and play it, but maybe not really at a professional level. That's what separates us. Because as Gabby, you can hit the top corner from a free kick. You can do that from time to time. But then, if maybe pitted against Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, as an example, what will distinguish you and them is that in the gameplay, it is your mental side of things that kind of will limit you. I mean, even if ability wise you can maybe stand shoulder to shoulder with them. So I think for me, it is the technique, which is obviously the physical aspects of things, how you're able to carry the ball and all of that, and the mental side of things. How do you think while you're on the ball? Yeah.
I am going to agree with both of you, both of the points that you guys made. And I think more recently than not, I've started to get a more different aspect or a more different way of seeing what would make a very good player for me. And I think one of the most important aspects is effectiveness. I've noticed it especially when Bruno Fernandes signed for Man United. I wouldn't say that Bruno Fernandes is particularly the best player technique-wise or skill-wise, but his effectiveness is what's made him be seen as an incredible player, or as a good player. And no doubt he's been our best player at Man United in terms of what he's been offering the team. But in terms of technique or ability, I could probably name 5 or 6 players who I think are above Bruno Fernandes, perhaps in the Premier League alone.
Sure.
So, but not to say that he's not good or not to say that he's not a good player. But I think more than anything, his effectiveness is what makes him a good player. And that's why I've been bothered with this thing of who's a good player or who's not a good player, what makes a good player, etc. Because another player that I've been looking at recently is Marcus Rashford. Now,
Sure.
I'm going to ask you what you guys think about Rashford in a moment, but in my opinion, Marcus Rashford has all the attributes that you would think that a player would need in order to succeed. So he's got fantastic technique, he's got incredible skills, very fast, he can shoot, he can take free kicks, whatever you can think of, the player has it. But there's just something about the way he plays where it seems like he doesn't fulfill his potential. So what I want to ask Nelson, for somebody like Rashford, would you consider him to be a good player, even though his attributes say that he should be better than what he is?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely one of the brightest young stars that's coming up in the football world. Yes, he's not getting the numbers and the recognition as, like, if you're talking about really great youngsters like Sancho, like you know what I mean, like he could be getting higher results because of his technique and skill level and the ability that he has. That could be what Simo's saying. It could be a little bit on the mental side. I might even see it as maybe he's not even playing in the correct system. Maybe two up top as a second striker is a preferable position for him to get the most out of his ability. There's many more factors than
Sure.
it could simply come down to is he effective with the skill sets that he has. Because you know more than any as a United supporter that when Rashford is on fire and in a purple patch, like, it's very difficult to stop him.
Yeah.
Like this season, it was very much Martial shone above the Rashford. But in the seasons before, I think Rashford had better seasons than Martial. But maybe the system currently is very much to get Martial more in the spaces where he's going to contribute to the team. Not saying that the goals and assist column for Rashford being lower this season, that he's been less effective. But I do think that maybe with a stronger mentality or maybe a bit more focus in getting more out of himself and in games, that he could be seen as a better player. I definitely see him as a great young player, and he's got, you know what I mean, they've got the world of a future ahead of him. And maybe it's just, you'll see, maybe next season he'll be the one that's going to be shining. I really don't see that your current situation with Rashford is anything to be worried about.
Okay. Simo?
Cool. Yeah, no, I am going to agree with what Nelson's saying. I think he has a great deal of potential. I mean, from the first time that he came on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of his biggest games was against Arsenal. I don't know if it was the first, but I do remember that game very well. But
Always is, mate.
I remember him, and from that day, I liked him, but I didn't like him, obviously, because of what he did to us now. So I've always had this love hate in my head. But then I think that Rashford is might have suffered a bit on the mental side from responsibility, because I think with Lukaku going as well, he might have become the one that's expected to come in with the goals for United. So and the whole team, because he's, as much as he's still a youngster, I think within the team he is not really as young anymore. It's just that the responsibility is now coming in a bit harder than it was during his first seasons, because when you're coming in the first seasons, you only expected to surprise us. We're like, okay, cool, just do something and we're going to be amazed either way. I mean, if you score one goal in 4 games and kind of like do one or two things, we're going to be happy with you. But then as he's growing up, I think the weight upon his shoulders has been increasing in the last season or so, such that I think he might have crumbled up a bit under the pressure. So that kind of touches on to that mental aspect of
Mentality.
things, to say, cool, as much as he's got all the attributes to be able to succeed physically, I mean, Rashford is strong. I mean, every time, whenever he's battling against a defender, you do see that, okay, cool, he's got the strength to get the defender off the ball and all of that. But then I think it's the mental side of things, where you then bring in things like consistency. How do they feel before the games? How do they behave or react under pressure? Both pressures from within the club and outside the club. Because I think United this season has been under some great spotlight, because I don't think you guys started off as best as possible, and your finishing position actually does flatter you guys a lot. I think it also is a bit of a testament on the performance of everybody else around you, not only just how you guys perform. But I think there was so much pressure on him to step up his game, and I think he might have crumbled a bit out under that pressure. So I think what has been holding him back would be the mental side of things. That I think that's the only reason that I can only pick up, because I think physically, as you guys have already mentioned, physically, technically, he's got everything to be at least in the top 5 players, at least in attacking wise, in the Premier League at this point in time.
Top 5 players.
I think it does have the attributes to be. It does have the attributes to be able to at least challenge. I mean, if you look at United in attacking sense, it does have the tools at least to be the go-to guy as far as attack is concerned for United, at least in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not really the greatest Manchester United supporter. I won't have the greatest opinions as far as United are concerned. But I think from the time that he came in from LVG's time and his progression, he has the tools to at least be challenging. At least when they talk about, okay, top goal scorers, he should be somewhere around there. But then most likely, in my opinion, the mental side of things does get, he does have a bit of a deficiency there, I would say.
No doubt there has been some progress in the goal scoring aspect, albeit the first and second season not too much, his first couple of seasons, but this season has been his best goal scoring season. I do believe he scored just above 20 goals this season in all competitions, 17 goals in the Premier League. So he did do a good job. I'll say that's a fairly decent job. That's a decent amount of goals to score in the league. There's just something about him that bugs me, and I do understand the mental aspect of things, but he's been playing in the Premier League for a long time. He's had this sort of responsibility for, I'd say, a long enough time for it not to be that big of a problem, if that's the right way for me to put it. And I mean, if you're good enough, you're old enough. That's what I think. Not to
He's trying too hard.
I think he might be trying a little bit too hard, and I think he's trying too hard in a system where him trying too hard will make him fail. I think the way Manchester, not to get too deep into the tactical aspect, but the way Manchester United are playing, it doesn't favor the guys who are playing on the wings or on the flanks. Our fullbacks are very incompetent going forward, perhaps minus Luke Shaw. but everyone else is quite incompetent, which is why I also kind of feel sorry for Daniel James, because he's also a player who came into the Premier League, and because he started off well, then everybody started putting
Expectations were high.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I mean, he came from the Championship, and that was his first season playing any form of football professionally. From the Championship the season before, he comes into the Premier League, and there's so much weight on his shoulders. But again, like I said, not to go too deep tactically into it, but I think that Marcus Rashford as well isn't a natural winger, which is where he's been playing. So he's trying all of these different things, and it's just not working. And I think he needs to focus on his strengths, because it almost seems like he's trying to do everything. And in trying to do everything, it's just making him not reach the potential that I'm quite sure he'll be able to reach, and make him, like Simo said, one of the top 5 attacking players in the Premier League, because it's true. The attributes are there. And I think that sort of goes to now where we're going to go next, which is with regards to Jordan Henderson. I don't rate him. I don't think he's that good of a player. I think that technique-wise or technically, there are far better players than he is. And granted, he did have a good season by his standards. But does having a good season by your own standards mean that you warrant winning the best player in the league, as was the case in the Football Writers Association Player of the Year, outside of Player of the Year, which was De Bruyne, which we'll get into as well. The Football Writers Player of the Year, is that something that we can agree with or no? Simo, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I was also quite shocked. I think it was quite an unexpected. Okay, maybe it was expected because there was a bit of an agenda being pushed prior to that award being given out. There was a bit like you could see the media trying to steer everybody to the idea of him winning it, and I think it was a media's interference that actually earned him the award, because I don't think that he was even the best player for Liverpool. That's then what kind of it then confuses me to say, okay, cool. He's not even the best player within your team, and then he goes on to win.
Top 3, not even the top.
You know what I'm saying?
Liverpool.
So I really do wonder how football writers watched Henderson the whole season, looked at him, and all kind of like agreed to say, I think he's been the best. I think he really, without him, Liverpool weren't going to win the league. I don't think so. I think that Liverpool were still going to win without him. So that for me was a very dodgy decision at best. I'm still hoping to understand, maybe from Nelson's point of view, since they are more more in line with the whole deep lying midfielders. Maybe he's got a better opinion as far as how important he was. But in my opinion, it should not have been him. Yeah. And should they have had to choose a player from Liverpool, definitely they shouldn't have chosen him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nelson?
Yeah, I must agree with Simo and all these points, and with you, Gabs. The Henderson is not even in the top 5 players at Liverpool. Like on like as in just the, if you're gonna choose a team sheet, yes, he's up there in the top 1 or 2 because he's your captain.
Sure.
And I guess like when we come back to what you were saying earlier about effectiveness, he might not be effective on the stat sheet because he got 4 goals and 5 assists this season compared to the Premier League Player of the Season, which was De Bruyne, who had 13 goals and 20 assists. There's a huge gap difference there. I think that the Henderson situation was all about an emotional decision. Poor Liverpool have not been in the running and have not won a Premier League. Actually, have never won a Premier League. Last time they won was when before the Premier League was even the Premier League.
Before I was born.
Which was 30 years ago, you get what I'm saying? So it was very much as if it was our favorite uncle that we haven't seen in how many years has come back to the party, and you're so happy to see them. Like, that's how I felt the situation was, that it was very emotionally driven by the media, like Simo was saying. Like, yes, he's effective as a person in the change room and as a leader in that team, but without him, like Simo said, there's enough leaders in that team for them to have won the season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Again, they also last season I think they potentially deserve to win the Premier League last season. City obviously pipped them. This season, City were way below par.
Yeah.
Than what they have been the three seasons before, which made it a lot easier and made it flattering for Liverpool with this huge gap win. But you know what? Give it to them and say congratulations, and Henderson, you the man that goes up there and picks up the award. But that whole Premier League Young Player of the Year, Premier League Player of the Season, bro. There were so many things I disagreed on there. I don't even want to go into it, my man, because as an Arsenal supporter, I don't even have to say the words. You can read between the lines in what upset us Arsenal supporters. But having him on there as a potential Premier League Player of the Season was mind blowing to me. Like
Sure.
you couldn't like. Fernandes did more in 3 months than what Henderson did the whole season.
True.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think it was very emotionally driven and backed by the media, and I guess it's their award, so they got to choose who they wanted to win it.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit over here. Outside of Jordan Henderson, right? You say that he doesn't deserve to be the top player. Personally, I think that Salah was Liverpool's best player this season. Last season, I would have given it to Virgil. He was incredible, but there was something about this season. He was a little bit shaky in moments where he's not usually shaky, but I think he was the best player, Salah. Now, I'm also a very big believer in saying that in order for you to be considered to be one of the best players in your team, that's why I spoke about the effectiveness thing. In order to be considered one of the best players in your team in the season or something, you have to help your team win something. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it is a team sport, and you can put out all the stats, you can throw out all the stats in the world, but if those stats don't help your team to win something, then perhaps somebody else might deserve an award more than you. Not that you don't deserve an award, but perhaps somebody else might deserve an individual award more than you, which is where we're going to go to with Suarez and Yaya Toure Player of the Season, as well as Salah against De Bruyne Player of the Season, etc. So being devil's advocate like that, would De Bruyne still deserve the player of the award, the player of the year, Premier League Player of the Year award, or does somebody from Liverpool deserve it more? Because Liverpool were fantastic. I know you said that City were off the mark, but at a certain point, Liverpool, I think after game 25, Liverpool had 73 out of a possible 75 points, which is just it's mind blowing. I think about that and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So would De Bruyne then deserve it more than, like, personally for me, I'd say Salah was Liverpool's best player. Nelson, we can start with you.
I think on a personal level, I totally agree with what you are saying, and it's going to come to our points just now on digesting those player of the seasons from previous years. That, you do need to have helped your team win some form of trophy to, have any standing to be regarded as the best of that season. City didn't win anything this year. They won a cup, right? They won. I'm not too sure if City won anything.
They won the Carling Cup, yes.
The Carling Cup. But for me, I think what stood out in De Bruyne's play this season was, thank goodness he only tied the record, but the assist record of 20 in the season that he tied Thierry Henry's record. I think that had a lot of weight in the decision for him to be top player of the season.
Yeah.
And I think when you watch that man play, whether he's playing on the wings, whether he's playing deeper, he's always contributing. His effectiveness is at 100% just about all the time. You know what I mean? Which is a big point that we're coming part of the show. And I think for playing devil's advocate, you would say no, maybe a Salah or a Mane or a Van Dijk or even a Trent needs to win it because Liverpool were so dominating the season. but just on the fact of the personal accolades of being 20 assists in a season, could have easily been higher than that if his team were, you know what I mean,
Competent, yeah.
firing like they were firing last 2 seasons. He
Sure.
would have easily gotten over 25 assists this season. But I think that alone and just the effectiveness of him at any stage of any game, like for me, merited him winning that award.
Simo?
Yeah, no, I have to totally agree with what Nelson's saying. I think I usually say that individual awards shouldn't be given based on the team, or at least a decision has to be made, and we should kind of like stick to one blueprint to say
Yeah.
that are we going to fully consider the team's
Performance.
performance, or are we going to consider just the individual's performance? Because if it's an individual award, then obviously KDB does take it,
Yeah.
and if the team's performance is one that we kind of like saying is the key element to steering our decision making, then yeah, maybe fair enough. You can try and bring in somebody from Liverpool. Definitely not Hendo, but anybody else. I think from the guys that Nelson listed, I think you could find one that can be justifiable to say, okay, cool, maybe it was because they won something. But I do think that when it comes to individual awards, I like personally to actually just look at the impact of the player
Yeah.
themselves, what the player does during the 90 minutes, because I think that it is, if we just base it on statistics, okay, the numbers, cool. It's always nice to include the numbers, but then when you watch the player do what he does every week, you can see for yourself. Like you don't even need to know if he got 20 assists. You just watch the guy and like, who is that kid? Who is that
Yeah.
guy? For me, that what is going to make us different or make different decisions from if I have to just hand my like for instance KDB's stats to my grandmother and ask them who do you think is the best. If she can come up with the idea based on stats, it either nullifies the validity of us watching football, or rather the importance of us
Yeah.
actually watching it, because I feel like the decisions have to be made during the time that we spend in front of our television sets watching the game and seeing for ourselves. Because as I did watch a video, I think it's like a 2 minute compilation video of chances that KDB created this season, which were just like, I mean, Sterling was being put through I don't know how many times, and they weren't firing. So if you look at that and then you say, okay, cool, let's just focus on the fact that he got 20, right? Let's just imagine if he didn't maybe, for instance, break that assist, match
Match
it,
it.
match it, right? Even if he didn't match it, let's say he got 19. If you just focus on the stats, you'll be like, oh no, he came close enough. So maybe he's not really that good. But then when you then watch the games, you're like, okay, no, if this guy was not at fault. If these guys had just buried those tap-in chances, clearly you would have broken it
Yeah.
and more. So I think we should just narrow it down to saying let's just focus on the individual and maybe use that as decision making point to say this is why this guy deserves it, because on his own he was able to create 20 assists, maybe 89 chances that were clear goal scoring chances as an example. And we use metrics like that if we are going to just focus on stats. But yeah, that's my point of
then
view.
then how important actually are your stats? How important are your, let's say, goals and assists in that aspect? I was actually having a discussion with my friend now that we're on the case of Kevin De Bruyne. I personally think that he's been the best midfielder in world football for the past 3 or 4 seasons. He's incredible. He's incredible. And I was talking to a friend of mine where he said to me, yes, De Bruyne does deserve the award this season, but he deserves the award because he matched the assist record. If he didn't match that assist record, then I would have looked at a Liverpool player. This is what my friend said. Then he went on to say that Salah, in the 2017-18 season where Salah pipped it over De Bruyne,
Yeah.
he said that Salah did deserve the award over De Bruyne, and I was arguing that De Bruyne deserved it over Salah. And he said to me, because Salah broke the goal-scoring record, he deserved the award. So where's the line then? Because I do understand, yes, Salah did break the goal record, but he broke it by 1 goal. So does you being the better player for that season, is that determined by a single goal because you broke the record. And now I'm not taking away from how difficult it was to break that record, because scoring 32 Premier League goals is it's unbelievable. It's an incredible achievement, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he did that in 36 matches. Just for reference, Suarez, when he broke the record, or matched the record, sorry, he scored 31 goals and he did it in 33 appearances. So what he did as well was incredible, because that was when he was suspended for 5 matches.
Sure.
The first 5 matches of the season, but he still fired them in 31 goals in 33 games or something like that. So where is that line then? Does breaking a record mean that you were the best player? And that's going to also bring me to Messi, because we had a lot of people saying Messi doesn't deserve the Ballon d'Or, but Messi broke the assist record of La Liga, and he was the top goal scorer. So why would he not be considered? So there's all of these questions that come to play. I think the most important question, because I've been rambling now, is who would you say then deserved the player of the season? Is it Salah, who broke the record and won nothing? Or is it De Bruyne, who was the best player on the best team at the time? Simo, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I think it goes back to the point that I made previously, to just say we should kind of make a decision as to what we're really going to use, because I feel like whoever makes these decisions always changes the blueprint of from which they base their decision making, depending on what happens during that season. So in one season, for instance, if Liverpool's players have performed on an individual basis, they've performed way better than everybody else. We kind of seem to lean towards, let's just focus on what the individual did. And then it's another team that did it well within a team, where he was brilliant within that team, but there was someone else who had like this one stat that was just like, oh wow, that was great. Then maybe let's just change it and focus, So it's things like that for me that make these awards grow less and less and less and less important to me, because
Yeah.
I think as a football fan, stats they do distort a whole lot of our opinions, and it's like what you say, that your friend felt like because he broke it, because Salah broke the record, he deserved it more than KDB. But then you then ask yourself, when you were watching the games during the entire season, who was just too brilliant to actually feel like, okay, cool. I understand that KDB wasn't obviously challenging for that record at the time, but how integral was he for his team? So clearly, if he was integral, I do believe that KDB was very important for the team when they won the league, right? So he deserved it, because if you're saying that he deserves it because of what he did for the team and the team performed, therefore he deserved it. So, but then when you then change it around the following season, and then you say, okay, cool, let's just not focus on that, and because now we feel like Liverpool deserve it, because I do think there's a bit of inconsistencies there. But I do think that at the time when City won it, as much as Salah was brilliant, as much as Salah deserved something, let him take that top goal scorer award. He was brilliant, but unfortunately, as much as he was brilliant, KDB was more brilliant, and he was more important for his team at the time. So I really do think that at that time, I would have also given it to KDB, or at the very least, someone from Manchester City, at least to keep in line with the whole, if you win the Premier League, we give it to you.
Because I mean, with that season, he didn't break the assist record, but he had the most assists.
Sure.
And we all know how
16, I
difficult, and we know how difficult it is to break the assists, which begs the question: is goals the most important thing? Before we get to that question, Nelson, your thoughts with the De Bruyne versus Salah situation?
Yeah, I agree with Simo in the fact that they're just always changing the blueprints, and it's difficult to see what the points are that they actually go by, as in what what holds value in like the best player of the season. But if you look at that season, just in the league table and such, like Liverpool finished like 25 points off City, with City scoring 106 goals. So that whole City team were firing on all cylinders. With if you go back to all the games, I'm sure you'll see that Kevin De Bruyne was the man that was making it tick over with his 16 assists, plus obviously the rest of his gameplay. Like that front line were obviously going at it. 106 goals were scored that season by Man City. That is just something crazy. And yeah, again, like the point is, I guess it's valid on both sides. But Salah breaking the goal record, but Liverpool finishing fourth, 25 points behind first place. Like I think Kevin De Bruyne was probably more influential in his team and coming first than what Salah was in getting them to fourth place.
Sure.
So yeah, like it's difficult to see how they go about deciding these factors. But yeah, I guess I would have been with Simo in choosing Kevin for that choice.
Now, what about the 2013-14 season?
Yeah.
Chelsea, was it Chelsea? No, I don't think it was Chelsea that was. Listen to me, Chelsea won it.
City.
It was City that
City.
won. City
By
that
2
won that
points.
Premier League, yes,
Yeah.
against Liverpool. Now, in that situation, obviously, it's a little bit different. There was the infamous slip. Steven Gerrard, Luis Suarez was busy crying because, that's where they lost their chance to actually win the title. Suarez now scored. He matched the record, so he didn't break it. He matched it. Was it? It's Van Persie, Shearer, and Henry. Is it that had 31 goals? Yeah. So Suarez was incredible. Like I said, there were 5 games, the first 5 games of the season he didn't play. So he scored 31 in 33, which is a phenomenal record. But again, Liverpool won nothing. And Man City, Yaya Toure as a defensive, I can't call him really a defensive midfielder. Let's say as a central midfielder that season, he scored 20 league goals.
Man.
20 league goals, and I think he contributed like 9 assists, something like that. But Luis Suarez, I'm assuming because he matched the goal scoring record, he won the Player of the Season award that season. That's where my question comes in. Does scoring more goals or scoring a crazy amount of goals, does that mean that you're the best player or you deserve an accolade like the Player of the Season? Obviously, this situation is different. Suarez was he was incredible.
I think he got 17 assists on top of
As
those
well.
31 goals.
It was him and Sturridge who were superb. But in a situation like that, where as superb as you were, I don't think there's anything else that he could have done. So it's a little bit unfair for me to say this. But as superb as he was, his team didn't win anything with his superiority. But Yaya Toure was equally as superb for his position.
Sure.
And Man City won the Premier League and the League Cup that season. So who would you say then deserved the award that season? Let's start with Simo.
Cool. I think that's one of the most difficult ones that they've ever faced, in terms of making up the decision, because Suarez was phenomenal. I think it was his last season. He was just brilliant. He did do things that you feel like, okay, cool, this Liverpool side deserved to win the league because of Suarez. Obviously, unfortunately, the statistics once again do say that City won it due to one unfortunate slip from the club legend himself. But then you then look at also what Yaya Toure did. I think it's easy to forget how a monster he was in that position. I think it's easy for ever since Pep Guardiola took over at City, his reputation has kind of like been diluted. But I think he was a phenomenal player. I think that as far as City are concerned, clearly one of their top 5 players ever. That's my opinion, of course. But then I think that when you look at those two that season, it is immensely a very difficult decision to make, which then comes back to saying, cool, what are we basing it on? Are we basing it on who helped their team win or who individually was just brilliant? So even if your team finished, for instance, outside Europa League, let's just say, however it is possible that you break the scoring record, but your team finishes like 10th position, let's just say it was possible somehow by some dark voodoo that you finish 10th after breaking the goal scorer record. Do you then deserve to win it? Those are the questions that I feel like are difficult to answer, to say, are we basing it just on his individual performance? Because individual wise, Suarez still does tip him. I'm sorry, but Suarez does obviously. I would still give it to Suarez because individually he was a beast. But then when you then say, okay, cool, let's just not focus on just individual, what you did to, and what did you give your team from what you did, then I would obviously give it to Yaya then. But I really do think that an individual award should be an individual award based on your individual performances, without the other
So,
teams. So I would give it to Suarez, yeah.
okay. Nelson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to not give that one to Suarez. Just like the cherry on top would have obviously been not having that slip and Liverpool winning it then, and you know what I mean taking. But if you look at the stats on the table, like that season, both City and Liverpool scored over 100 goals.
Yeah.
Sure.
What won the Premier League that season was a defense. City only conceded 37 goals,
Sure.
and in that, Yaya Toure has some form of standing in that defensive side.
Sure.
As much as he did going forward with the 20 goals and 9 assists, he had a lot to contribute to the defensive aspect of the City team, which won the league with only conceding 37 goals. Again, like we've been talking this whole show, it's difficult to see on how they go about selecting these, but I think the more we talk about it, the more I'm totally backing Simo in. It potentially should just be on your personal individual accolades and what you've done in that season that holds the most weight as the player of the season.
Sure.
In that one, it's so difficult again to choose between the two, but I think the 31 goals and 17 assists in 33 games by Suarez can't be overlooked. It has to be, you know what I mean, it has to be up there.
And I do agree. And like I said, he was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. He contributed to he directly contributed to so many of the goals that Liverpool scored. But I can't look past what Yaya Toure did as well. So I'm gonna have to go with Yaya Toure in this specific situation because like we also look at what players do outside of where they normally play, you know,
Yeah.
and it's expected of Suarez to score goals. Maybe not expected of him to break the record, but it is expected of him to score goals.
So his job is a goal scorer.
Exactly,
End of the day.
exactly. You know, what's not expected is for Yaya Toure to score goals, and he scored 20 of them.
Yeah.
And
That's a lot.
I mean, that's a team that had Edin Dzeko in the side. There was Aguero, who we know Aguero's a Man City legend already. He was in the side as well. You know, David Silva was playing a more advanced role at Manchester City at the time as well. So there were players who were more capable of scoring goals than what Yaya Toure was, or at least their job was to score goals. Yet he still managed to score 20 league goals, and that's not even considering whatever amount of goals he scored outside of all or in all competitions. So like you say, look, it's difficult, and I think in all competitions he scored 24, so most of his goals were in the league. But it's especially difficult. I think what would sway people is also 17 assists is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
Had that
It
been
is
like
a lot.
5 assists,
Yeah.
It would have been,
it would have been a more clear cut for Yaya.
Yeah, 17 assists is a lot. I mean, De Bruyne had 16 the season where I said that, well, the season we've all agreed that he should have won Player of the Year. But I think once again, then it's going to boil down to what I said. Otherwise, individually, yeah, it's Suarez that do better because you don't expect Yaya to score, but
Sure.
you can expect him at least to assist. And Suarez did both. He assisted a lot. I think he may have had the most assists that season in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. So perhaps individually, yes, Suarez did do better, but it's going to boil down to that effectiveness of what you helped your team achieve, which again, like I said, is unfair because he really can't do much more. But I think if I don't stick to something like that, then it will be difficult. Then I'll fight and say that Messi would also deserve the Ballon d'Or this season, and they didn't win anything. So
Sure.
that would
Yeah.
also be a little bit unfair to say, which is where we're jumping to next. The Ballon d'Or cancellation. It does make sense, but I also don't think. I think it was a rash decision to
Agree.
make. I think it was a
Agree.
rash decision because I do know that, for example, League One was cancelled a good 10 games before they finished. The Dutch, there were no Dutch champions, and they were also cancelled about 10 matches before they were able to finish. So for the sake of those guys who could still put in performances, score a lot of goals, etc., it would kind of be unfair. But to be perfectly real, or to be blunt or honest, I don't think there would have been anybody from those leagues considered.
Yeah,
Maybe outside of Mbappe and
Neymar.
and Neymar, and considering the fact that there would have been Euro 2000 this year. So we all know that these 6-match tournaments play a big role. However, I feel about that. But how do you feel about them cancelling the Ballon d'Or? Nelson, let's start with you.
Well, it takes us back to the question on what we've been saying about Player of the Year. Like, how have they been awarding this Ballon d'Or every season for the last X amount of years? Because it seems like it's just been a Messi and Ronaldo show. And granted, they on an individual level have, outscored, out assisted. They've really been the two best players that we have seen, like in our lifetime. I hate the fact of this who's better than who conversation that always comes up, because I'm just like, as a football lover, I'm like, I just love watching them both. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to have to be a one that's better than the other. I'm just sad for someone that's had a season like Lewandowski's had. Like,
Sure.
I think he had a strong shout, whether like there was no COVID and things went
Very strong.
like, I think he had a very strong like opportunity to win it this season. One, the Bayern team is just ripping through everybody. They won the league. They now into the Champions League final, and I think he's got also 34 league goals. I think in total he's sitting on like 55 goals for the season, with 10 assists. I'm sad that the award was not that they've obviously cancelled it for this year. Because if you look at, like you were saying about the scoring and assist records in La Liga, Messi would have still been up there as a contender to take it. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, maybe Ronaldo a lot less than what he has in the previous seasons, but like Lewandowski just had a solid opportunity this season, someone to take it off the hands of Messi or Ronaldo. So I'm a bit sad to have seen it not happen, but I guess with what you said about some of the leagues not finishing, that it does hold some merit, and the reasoning is probably like has to do with that. But it's sad for it to not go through and see who could have taken it.
Simo?
Yeah, sure. I think I just have to agree with both of you guys. I did hold the opinion that it was a premature decision, and I felt like it should have gone through. I think they could have found ways to justify it being like to let it go through. There were enough reasons for it to stand as well. But I do also understand from your point to say that since other leagues had been cancelled, then maybe it would stand to reason to just let's just drop it for this season, since not everybody is going to get a fair chance. But I also do agree with Nelson that I think Lewandowski did deserve, I think, from what he's been doing, stats wise as well as performance wise. So I think when you just watch the games that I've watched him play, I think he's been showing that he does deserve to have won the Ballon d'Or outside just looking at the stats. So yeah, it is sad that it was cancelled.
Lewandowski's been brilliant. I do believe that he has scored in every Champions League game that he's played in.
Sure.
There was one game where he was on the bench. I think it was the last game of the group stages against Spurs, where he didn't feature that game. But every other game he has scored in the Champions League. And Ronaldo's got the record, I believe, with 17 goals. Yeah, so
he's on 15 off 9.
yeah,
That's
and
incredible.
it's unbelievable, and that's considering the fact that there were no in the quarterfinals and
There was no double
semi-finals
legs, yeah.
there were no double legs. So he may have well reached 20 goals in this season's Champions League, which is a phenomenal thing to think about. And just watching the way he plays as well, So, like Simo was also stressing, you need to watch these guys play and see what they do, how they contribute to the teams. Watching Lewandowski play, he is.
Man, what a striker.
He's great. He's strong. He's a bully, and the way he links up with the rest of the team.
True.
I think that I was a little bit bothered with when people were saying that Lewandowski should be number one. This was just before lockdown. They were like, he deserves the Ballon d'Or. So what bothers me about such early shouts is that the Ballon d'Or is meant to be through the entire year. So over the course of 1 year, and just before lockdown was month number 3 of the year. So where do you go with saying that this guy deserves the Ballon d'Or for 2020 when 2020 is 3 months down the line, And as a massive Messi fan, even if he doesn't perform like he should, I'll still find some reason to justify Messi needing to win. So it was bothering me, and it's like, but these guys haven't played Champions League, that we don't know who's going to win the league, etc. So how can you so easily say that this guy deserves it because he's putting out the numbers that is usually put out by Ronaldo and Messi, But after this, after the lockdown, after the Champions League, and after actually watching him intently, I think that he's somebody who has a very good shout, and or had a good shout. And I don't know about FIFA the best, if that's still going to be going on at the end of the year. But if there is somebody, if we have to say right now we decide, and we are already in August, then Lewandowski is definitely the player that I think should be getting the best player of the year. He was amazing. Yeah.
So if I can just shortly, I think one of the most unfortunate things about these awards, the Ballon d'Or and the FIFA Best, is that they come in at the end of the year where it eclipses 2 different seasons.
Yes.
I think that's very unfair because it actually clouds so much judgment. Because if you look at the fact that let's just say this season would have been the one that we on would have been completed, and we would be in another season already, right, or approaching that, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's quite unfortunate that it lies in between like 2 seasons. So what a player does the previous season. So for instance, Lewandowski wins the Champions League this season, and then they get on a terrible slump, so to speak, right? By the end of the year, somebody could have also said, I don't think he deserves it. Maybe let's give it to, let's just say, Sterling in this like the following season. Sterling is doing some amazing things, such that halfway through the year, people are considering what Sterling has done halfway through the year, but they kind of like throw away what Lewandowski did the first half of the year, which would have also been brilliant. So I think it's very weird also how the Ballon d'Or is also set. It's obviously you want to say Player of the Year, so it has to be at the end of the year. You can't have that in the middle of the year. But it's very unfortunate, I think, and it clouds so much of our opinions because, for instance, you would have someone say that Ronaldo hasn't scored in the last 3 games, but this year he's got 45 goals. And then it's because they're still considering what he did the previous season. But this season, he's been bad. So it's all those things that are, I think, quite unfortunate regarding the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, I agree. I think that straight up player of the season, I don't know which European award it is where they choose based on the season, where it's given halfway through the year. The one where Iniesta won it over Ronaldo and Messi. I can't remember what
that's the Champions League. It's the Champions League based one, the European Player of the Year or something.
That one. Yeah. See, that's reasonable, because it factors in that season. But throughout the year, I think that it's a little bit. I do agree. I think it's a little bit unfair, and maybe something that they should look at. Maybe they should look at switching up the Ballon d'Or awards from now. Because now would be a good time. They cancelled the awards. So how about you work around it, looking from now up until next season, and then seeing how that can go, you know? So that is the Ballon d'Or cancellation. So I think we're all on the basically the same idea, where we say that it was cancelled prematurely. Understandable, but also prematurely, because I think it still could have gone on. Now, I think that that's something that could have happened. And we're going to now wrap up this thing with a question. Now, Nelson, I believe that you're a Ronaldo fan. Or I believe you think that Ronaldo is the better player overall throughout his career than what Messi was. Am I correct in saying that?
My Portuguese blood is supposed to say yes. You know what I'm saying, Mosh? And in many aspects, I can justify that he is better than Messi. Like skill, like natural, a born, like naturally gifted player that we've ever seen. Like Messi's up there. Like you can't touch that guy. Ronaldo's gotten to where he's gotten, I think, from his mentality and his work rates. Like I think those two things that played in his favor since he was a 16-year-old boy, and so yes, I'm pro Ronaldo. Not saying that I dislike Messi in any way because Messi, like when you watch him in full flow as a football lover, like you can't not love that guy. He's so majestic on the ball. But I think I'll give my 2 cents in the matter. If you look at the goals and if you look at the stats, both of their stats are incredible. The amount of games that they've played, the goals that they've scored. Like Messi, I was just taking a look at like what his La Liga stats are. 485 games with 444 goals and 201 assists. Like that blows your mind. You know what I'm saying? But then what leads me back to Ronaldo being a little bit different in the career choice that he went by is that I almost feel like Messi went to Barcelona and grew up through the ranks, and then once he was in a senior level, the whole team and culture of his football experience as a professional was molded for him. Could have been called Messi FC. You get what I'm saying? Not saying that, like, if you look at the back line, if you look at the, Xavi's and Iniestas, you look at every other player that's come through the ranks while Messi's been there, like Barcelona have been a great team. But I feel like Messi was always the linchpin, or they always played to Messi's strengths, and which gave him the stats that he has. Ronaldo had a slightly different situation because he's been first obviously at Sporting, then he was at United, then Madrid for a long time, now Juve. I feel like he's always needed to refine himself, readjust himself to a new league and a new culture and new teammates. And that's where his mentality and work rate has just been on his side and made him the player that he is. I've said like a few minutes ago that like I hate the comparison, who is better than who. I'm just so happy that my time of enjoying and watching football that I've gotten to see both of them. Like we're gonna be sad in 5 years' time when neither of them are around and we're like shit, we took it for granted. Because we were on this, Messi's better, Ronaldo's better.
I agree, and it is a something that we should enjoy, but these discussions are gonna happen, and and that's you mentioned Ronaldo being or Messi being in a system that basically worked for him, worked around him. But wouldn't you say that they can only do that because of how good Messi actually is?
No, agree, 100%. Like he's not only benefit from the system as becoming the lead scorer and assist, but the team has obviously benefited from him being that talented.
Sure.
And with regards to Ronaldo having to switch up his go to different leagues and play well, etc. I'm of the opinion that if you're a player at a certain level, it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you go. That you're still going to be that player at that level, wherever it is. So with Ronaldo going to different leagues, from Sporting to Manchester United, I think would have been the biggest jump because you're 17 years old, But from the Premier League to La Liga, he left the Premier League as the best player in the world. He went from Man United to Real Madrid, and at Real Madrid, he wasn't playing with, slouches either. He had Kaká, he had Benzema that was signed with him. Then he had just the players that he had around him at the time. I think also would contribute to an easier transition, because the players he had were also of high level and high intelligence, and I think it would be a little bit easier for him to slot in, which is why Ronaldo also was able to change his style of play at Real Madrid, where he went from Manchester United being that player that takes on people to being more of a poacher, making sure that 6-yard box was his box, because there can be 6 players around him, but he'll still get to the header, things like that. So I'm of the opinion that if Messi, a lot of people like to use that against him, if Messi were to go to Manchester City right now, he'll light up the Premier League. And
I wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah.
What do you think Messi would do in the Premier League?
I think that he would more than likely finish as the top goal scorer in the Premier League. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to score as many goals as he would in La Liga. It's a different game. It's a different story, which is why I also think Ronaldo scored a lot of Premier League goals. But when he went to La Liga, that's where he was able to have like 46 league goals, which is just mental to think about.
No,
but
both of their stats, like every season, like mind blowing.
Yeah, but to in the Premier League, we know it's not like that. I also kind of liken it to Neymar. Neymar was lighting up Santos. He went to Barcelona, even though he struggled a little bit in his first season. Once he was allowed to play with the freedom that Luis Enrique allowed him to play with, then you saw the real Neymar. And at PSG, he's just having fun. PSG, he's too good for everybody there, he's unbelievable. So that's the kind of thing of where I say, like, at a certain level, wherever you go, it doesn't matter. You're gonna make it,
Sure. And we're not talking about the average. We're talking about Messi and Ronaldo.
We're talking about
they should go to any team, any league in the world and be able to shine.
They are transcendent players. There's very few players. I think the closest player to their level has been Neymar. A lot of people say he hasn't reached his full potential, etc. I don't really agree with that. I think his injuries have hampered him, but in terms of that ability and what he's shown, his intelligence, Neymar's been the closest to those guys, and he's also showed that he can go to different leagues in different countries and light it up. I'd love to see him in the Premier League. I know Manchester United are in the market for a right winger, so who knows, But Simo, your thoughts on the matter, the Ronaldo versus Messi debate?
Okay, cool. I think Gabs, you know me. I'm 100% Lionel Messi fan. But also, I do respect Ronaldo. But my respect for Ronaldo is as far as goal scoring is concerned. I think his change, or rather how he's developed since leaving United to, I think the first 2 years at Real Madrid, he was still using skill. He was still trying to be the guy that, he was trying to be the Ronaldo from United that we've always seen. But then I think as he grew within the Real Madrid history, he started moving towards someone who's just efficient. So out just moving from being like what Neymar is to being like an efficient guy, I think his mentality changed, or his mentality developed to be like with that killer instinct that he has. I think he harnessed it more at Real Madrid. Also, I think from the third season, not the first 2 seasons. I think the first season he was still playful. Yes, he was still trying to beat the player and all of that, but then he then transitioned to that box guy who says in the 6-yard or the 18-yard box, cross ball, I'll kill it. Also, I just want to also touch on the fact that the whole changing and adjusting to teams. I really don't think that Ronaldo's type of football has needed much adjustment when it comes to teams. I think he's not really changed much, and teams have also tried to accommodate him because obviously he's Cristiano Ronaldo. So you won't try to pass the ball around, which is why I think he would have struggled. I had a feeling that they were going to struggle with Juventus due to the whole idea of the Sarri ball, that you were just going to pass the ball. I don't think it's the type of football that favors him. That's my opinion. I don't think it's the type of football that actually favors the build that Ronaldo is. I think Ronaldo is, let's just go full on attack, cross the ball in, or jump these guys or something like that. I think he's let's just do it quick. And I think this approach of Sarri ball doesn't really favor that type of football from him. But coming onto Messi now, I think what makes me love Messi, right, is like from the beginning of this show, I think I've been mentioning that it's just about watching the guy. Because for me, I really do not like statistics because stats cloud so much. Stats hide so much that you can end up thinking that one is better than the other, or one is almost good enough to be like the other. For instance, you just use that Neymar is close to Ronaldo and Messi. I think Neymar is as close as anyone has ever come. But if you look at his stats, yes, they're there and they're not there. Like they're not the greatest to compare to Ronaldo and Messi. But when you watch him play, you can see that this guy, if he just wakes up one morning and decides that I want to show the rest of the world that I'm actually good enough, because I feel like at some point within himself, he's just told himself that I think I'm good enough. I don't need to show anyone else. So let me just go out there, have fun, do my Brazilian type of football and all of that. But when you watch him play, you can see that this guy is good enough to actually be rubbing shoulders with these guys, right? But then with Messi, I think Messi would work in any team in the world. Okay, maybe not any team. Let me just calm down. Let me calm down. I think with any good team, I
Okay,
think he
yeah.
would work. He would work with any good team. And the reason why I say that, I think the way that Lionel Messi plays over the years as I've been watching him, Messi's football it's all about understanding space and everybody else's movement. So he's got this thing where he needs everybody else to be in tune, which is why I would obviously agree to saying that because he played at Barcelona, it flattered his skill, it flattered his abilities as well, such that should he have played at a lesser team, which is almost what I usually see with Argentina, for instance, where the rest of the team don't seem to be at the same thought process to say, okay, cool, now we're starting a move. And then you look at how you used to play with people like Pedro, Alexis Sanchez, and then you look at the fact that Alexis Sanchez left Barcelona because he felt like he wasn't good enough or he wasn't going to get game time to come into to the Premier League and dominate the Premier League, so to speak. I think in the couple of years that Sanchez was at the top, he was dominating the Premier League and he was one of the at least top 10 footballers at the time, right? And you then ask yourself, why would Messi not be able to then come to the Premier League and do the same? If Messi was already almost, I don't know how many times the player that Sanchez was at Barca, why would Messi come and fail at that league? I'm not just going to use Sanchez. I look at people like Aguero. Aguero left the Atletico Madrid and went to Manchester City. He's been dominating year after year after year in terms of goals. He wasn't really at the top. He was good, but he wasn't the Aguero that the Premier League knows, right? You look at people like Diego Costa. Yes, he was good in La Liga, but then he wasn't also as phenomenal as he was in the Premier League. So you then ask yourself, how
But what
come
about
everybody?
Torres? What about Torres?
Well, Torres also left, I think, the thing and what you call Atletico Madrid and went to Liverpool, right? And he also was brilliant. I think he was brilliant also at Liverpool. You look at people like that way, he keeps on being every time when they come to the Premier League from La Liga at least, they come and dominate. You look at Cesc Fabregas. Cesc Fabregas lost favor as much as he was always good. I think Fabregas is just good. But you look at the fact that when he came back to the Premier League, he also did light it up as well from the midfield. And you get Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure also left Barcelona because they felt like he wasn't good enough to replace Busquets, and he came in, he lit up the Premier League. So every other player that was good in La Liga comes to the Premier League and just tears it apart, to some extent at least. But then there's this notion that Lionel Messi wouldn't be able to survive it. And then you say, okay, cool. Lionel Messi has only played a handful of games against the top six Premier League teams. He is in the top five goal scorers against the top six teams in England. He doesn't even play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
For me, it's those things that then make you wonder. Okay, cool. Why do we need this guy to go and play in the Premier League? Why do we
Yeah.
need to use stats? Let's just give him the ball and watch what he does. And I feel like I do respect fans like Nelson to say, cool. As much as it is a choice to prefer one over the other, but at the end of the day, I think when you go, I always say this, that I feel like most Ronaldo fans go to bed and they tell themselves that they know that Messi is better, but they cannot change the like their perception that you say, okay, I once thought Ronaldo was the best, now I think Messi is the best. So most of them don't want to get to that point, and it's fine. I think it's good to say, just, you know what, enjoy what you want, but at least if I have to watch 90 minutes and the score ends 1-1, for instance, and Messi didn't score, I can guarantee you that I enjoyed Messi's performance than, for instance, if I had to watch a Ronaldo 90 minutes where he didn't score. There's a high chance that he was missing for a whole lot of times. But I think that's just my opinion. I think I could talk the whole day as far as Messi is concerned, but I do believe that we were blessed enough to exist at the same time as these two, and I feel like had they not existed at the same time, I do think that I would also have been a Ronaldo fan had Messi not yet existed in the same time as him. Yeah.
I love Ronaldo. He's a Manchester United darling at the end of the day, so I'll always love Ronaldo. But I think that my appreciation, I think it boils down to intelligence, and my appreciation for intelligence showed on the game or in the game is what makes me appreciate certain players. That's why I really, really enjoy watching De Bruyne play. Because he plays with such an intelligence, it almost feels like he thinks at a higher level to everybody else, you know? And that's what it was like for Bruno Fernandes as well when he had first come at Man United. It would seem like he would think at a higher level to everybody else, and nobody could match him until Pogba was next to him. Because I'm not gonna like get it twisted and jump on the Bruno Fernandes bandwagon in saying that he's the best thing that has happened to Man United. I still think that Pogba is Manchester United's best player. But as it is now, Bruno Fernandes is Man United's most effective. And moving forward as the most effective player, overall, you can say, okay, Bruno has been the best player for Manchester United for what they want to do, but in terms of like ability and technical ability, I'd still think that's Pogba. That aside, that's why I'm able to I watch Messi and I see the way he plays, or his style of play, is that he'll get into a position where he can either score or he can pass the ball for an assist. Whereas Ronaldo, the way he gets into position is that if you get him the ball in the 6-yard box, it's done. Like that's Ronaldo's ball. Just it doesn't matter. You can have all 10 of your players in there plus your goalkeeper. Ronaldo will probably be the one at the end of that, and he shows an intelligence inside that 6-yard box which is unmatched. But Messi shows an intelligence from the outside going into the box, and because of that, you see more of Messi. Because he has a little bit more to do in order to get to that goal scoring situation. And I think that's what attracts me more to Messi than Ronaldo. Because it's unbelievable. And I think that's another reason why De Bruyne is one of those players that attracts me as well. Because he gets the ball from relatively deep. He drives the ball forward. And he does something that he makes look really casual. But in actual fact, it's difficult. It's difficult to make a pass like that, or it's difficult to see what he sees. It's like he's an eagle flying on top of the field, and he sees what others don't see, you know? Yeah. And that's sort of what leans me more towards Messi. So in terms of awards and stuff, best player, Ballon d'Or, etc., I do think that it is important to consider the trophies, you know? But in terms of if you're watching football, and you appreciate how good a player is, then that's where I'm going with Messi. And that's where I'm going with De Bruyne. And that's why I'm so bugged by Marcus Rashford not reaching his potential, because he has those attributes. He can do it, but there's just something holding him back, you know. But that's sort of where I'm at with regards to that whole thing.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that might wrap it up. That might wrap up this conversation. And just before we do go, some predictions for the Premier League. Let's go top 6. Simo, how do you think it's going to be?
Top 6. Okay, that's a challenging one. I think that can I just say top 2? I think the top 2. I'm very. It's difficult to choose where the top is going to be, but I would still choose the top 2. I would say it's going to be City and Liverpool, one of them, one or the other, and then I will still have Chelsea. I think Chelsea's signings that they've made, if they can play the level of football that they were playing this season, with the signing that they're going to get, I would put Chelsea there. Uh, I would love to really slot Arsenal in somewhere there, but maybe it's just hopeful thinking. Maybe let me not use a whole
Maybe too
wishful
soon.
thinking.
Maybe too
Let me not
soon.
do. I mean, it's football at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think anything is possible. I mean, if Leicester were able to push United and everybody else to the limits for the top four spots, I think we could also still challenge it. I think if we have the fortune of good results. But then anyway, I think I would say Liverpool, City somewhere at the top. Chelsea, I would have United. I don't know. I think okay. Let me just say United, Arsenal, Tottenham.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Nelson.
To be honest, I'd love to see Tottenham out the top six. Not only because of the the love
sure,
hate relationship between Arsenal and Tottenham. I'm also, as I should be with my Portuguese blood, I should be a huge Mourinho fan. I'm actually the opposite. I'm completely not a fan. I've never enjoyed him as a coach.
sure,
Even you can't take away of the accolades that he has and everything that he's done for the game. I think his time might be a little bit over.
Yeah, he's
As
done.
per
Yeah.
one of the articles that Vince actually wrote on our blog.
sure.
The outdated one.
The outdated one, yeah. And when the discussions were about Arsenal when he was looking for a new club and we were looking for a manager, that we should go after Mourinho, I was so happy that Tottenham took that opportunity. Okay, back to the conversation. I agree with Simo. I think City and Liverpool top two, but I think the gap's not going to be as great as it's been this season, and even the season before, as in the top two away from everybody else. I
Sure.
think slowly. Chelsea. I'd say United. I'd even say Arsenal. Like, we're pushing harder to get up there in the top two. But I think for the time being, City and Liverpool will be there. I think City will be there. They've got the investments, and I think they will invest in their team. Liverpool, I don't see them. Like, I see them being up there, but what I mean. There's cycles, and I think for another 1 or 2 seasons they'll be dominant, and
Sure,
then
sure.
players will start leaving, and whether the new players are going to fit directly into the system, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I'd say
Sure.
I'd say City, Liverpool. I'd say if Chelsea had to get a grips of their defense, I think
Sure.
the team that they're putting together could be the closest match to those top two. And then, yeah, like, I'm with Seymour, hoping for a top four finish for the Gunners. But I think I think United need a defensive midfielder that can let Pogba and Fernandes do this thing, and maybe another winger. Like, if you get some good additions, I think you'll also be pushing up the top three, top two spots. So I'd say those five, and maybe like a dark horse in between there, Wolves or
Yeah.
Leicester putting in there again.
Yeah.
I love Wolves. I love watching that team play.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I agree, and I think that the Dark Wolves or the Dark Horses might be somebody that pips Spurs, because I'm of the opinion that Mourinho's finished and he's
Sure.
never winning a major trophy again. That's
Sure.
So you
but
must stay. So you must stay at Tottenham for as long
he
as
can
possible.
stay there. He can
Long
stay.
may it last. Long
know.
may it last.
And I can already tell you, I don't think they're gonna make top six, Tottenham, and like unless they get like signings that will reflect really them justifying finishing in the top six, but I don't think they're gonna make it. So in first place, wild card. I think that Man United's taking the Premier League. And no, I'm joking.
Anything can happen, mate. Anything can
Yeah,
happen.
we never know. We never know. But I don't think we're there. And I think City's going to take it. I know that one of the most difficult things to do is not to win the Premier League, but to defend it. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
To retain the Premier League is extremely difficult. And it almost seems like, maybe it's just me, but it seems like maybe Liverpool is happy with having won it, and that's something that will keep them on a high for a good 3 or 4 seasons before they say, okay, let's get over the fact that we've won our first one and we need to actually win the next one. But not to say that they're not going to be challenging, but I think that Man City are going to win it, and I think they'll win it by like maybe 4 or 5 points, so it'll be quite tight up until the end of it. Third, I do think that if Man United do strengthen, like you said, we need a winger, which is important. If they do get that winger that we need, if they do get that extra defensive midfielder, and for goodness sake, if we can get a competent left back, then I think that we might stand a chance of finishing third or fourth. But if things stay as it is right now, I think Chelsea made some very good additions, and I think that Lampard is quite a good manager. So I think they'll make it. Arsenal, I think they're also in Man United's situation. They need to make a few more signings to really get them challenging for that top 4 spot. So I'd have them 5th. So an improvement from last season, but obviously still not where they want to be. But I would have them in 5th if they don't strengthen. And I do think there's some positions that they still need to strengthen. I think Willian was a good signing. If anything, he brings experience, and I mean, he's not finished. He's not a finished player. So
you could see that with Chelsea. I think he had a decent season.
So I think that it's quite a decent signing. I think Arsenal's centre back needs somebody very, very capable, somebody very good. Because that situation there is a mess. David Luiz is just a calamity at the back, and Mustafi and Socrates make so many silly mistakes, I think the fullback situation's okay. I like Bellerin.
We've had a problem there for a few seasons. Simo will tell you, like, centre backs been our problem. From going from the like having Sol Campbell and Carlo Toure to and then even before that, the old
Tony Adams
before to what we've been having in the last 10 years, we need to step up in the centre back position.
Your goalkeeper position is set. I think Bernd Leno is very good.
And I think we have
Martinez,
one of the best. I think we have one of the best left backs in the world.
Yes, I think I like him, Kieran Tierney. I think he's really good, and he's going to improve. He's somebody who will really improve. So of course the midfield situation also could use some work if Arsenal won a challenge. Up front, I think you guys are okay. I think that Willian's signing has made the front pair or the front Arsenal's attack capable.
Stronger.
I don't think that you can really look at their front and any other team's front and say Arsenal can't compete. If anything, because Aubameyang is unbelievable, And
Willian's signing is also a positive in he can play anywhere across the front three.
Yeah, sure. I think that is good. But outside of that, the signings still need to happen. So, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, and then I'm also going with Wolves.
Dark horse.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I'd see it. So I think that's it. We can wrap up, guys. Thanks so much. It's we spoke for a long time as well. I appreciate you guys taking the time and giving your opinions. It's always fun having a chat with people who you can have intelligent football conversations with.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Man. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, so hopefully again sometime soon we'll do this again.
No, thanks a lot, Gabs.
Thanks.